Welcome to the Pivot. Mr. Sulaiman Rahman, President, Founder, CEO of DiverseForce and the P4Hub. Today on the Pivot, your network is your net worth. Y'all, it is all about who you know. Y'all, it is all about who you know. That's what they tell us, right? Your network is your net worth. So today on the Pivot, we are talking about networking and how that can be used to help you. Thanks so much for tuning in, y'all. It's your girl, Stephanie Humphrey, aka Tech Life Steph, and I am joined by one of my dearest and oldest friends, Mr. Sulaiman Rahman. He is the President, Founder, CEO of DiverseForce and the P4Hub, and we are super happy to have him on the show. Sul, thanks so much for being here on the Pivot.
Absolutely, Steph. It's a pleasure to be here with you and excited to participate.
Bet. So let's just dive right in. Actually, before we get started on all of that, talk to us a little bit about what you do, and then about how networking has been important in that effort.
Yeah, I can talk about our company, DiverseForce, which really evolved from exactly what you talked about, a professional network that we built. That's currently over 20,000 professionals of color throughout the greater Philadelphia region, and now expanding across the country. And DiverseForce is a human capital solutions firm. We focus on really developing leaders, connecting those leaders to opportunities, connecting them to opportunities to upskill into new careers, particularly in the tech sectors, and also just connecting folks across different ecosystems to build social capital and exposure, and helping folks also make an impact in the community while they're advancing themselves personally and professionally.
But it didn't always start out that way. You know, back in the day when you and I met, it was all about getting our swerve on. Talk a little bit about urban Philly and the origins of urban Philly.
Yeah, it was similar origins around connecting people. And although we've kind of focused, around career development, like you said early on, we, as young folks in Philadelphia wanting to find out what's the, hot spots to go to, and we're like-minded folks. Urban Philly was a website. We actually started, I won't date us, but we started Urban Philly back when email was a disruptive technology. Right before me was some good friends of mine who started Delaware Valley First Fridays, professional event for actually a party, if you will, for professionals. And it was kind of the event that you didn't know about unless you knew people. You didn't know where the event would be at, and you'd have 1,000+ professionals. But we started Urban Philly as a way to find events like that with like-minded professionals. And so we started the email list, just highlighting different promoters who are hosting events for professionals throughout the region. And later we started a web platform that was user generated. So event marketers could actually upload their events into the platform. We eventually had 3,000 event marketers who used our website, and over 30,000 subscribers who were looking for events throughout the city. So we were kind of an intermediary, if you will, between event marketers and those event goers, and then also corporate sponsors who wanted to reach that audience as well. So that's where it started.
And listen, first of all, let's not sleep on Urban Philly or Delaware Valley First Fridays. Those were the must-attend events every month. I literally bought a new outfit every month to go to First Fridays, and in literally anybody, the who's who of Philadelphia. It wasn't just a party. The who's who of Philadelphia was there. That was back when AI was playing for the Sixers, and, so we would get all kind of athletes and local celebrities and everything else. So it really was that convening of Philadelphia's Black elite. At the risk of sounding elitist, it was Philadelphia's Black elite. And I got to tell a quick story too, because don't discount the idea of a party or a social event as an opportunity for networking. So when I pivoted my brand, when I was trying to become Tech Life Steph for real, I had done some things to get started. I was writing for a few different publications, but the goal had always been to be on television. I wanted to be a tech contributor, like I had seen on TV, and, you know, was still trying to do that process. I had hired a publicist. I was paying her all this money. Nothing was happening. You know, they kept rejecting our pitches. All the networks in Philadelphia kept rejecting our pitches. And they're like, well, we don't know who she is. And, you know, Stephanie, didn't she used to do traffic for one of the other stations and whatnot? But I was at a party for E. Stephen Collins, rest in peace. It was his birthday party, 1 December. And Chanel Jones, who is now on the third hour of the Today Show, but she was the morning anchor for Good Day Philadelphia on Fox 29 at the time. She was at that party. And I was like, hey, Chanel, hey, girl. And we had some minor, you know, very brief interactions before that. So I was kind of bringing that up, trying to jog her memory on where she knew me. And I said, hey, I'm doing tech stuff now. So I would love to, you know, if you're interested, do some stuff for the show and I can send you some pitches. But she was like, send me a pitch. I was on air 10 days later.
Wow.
And that was how I started on, and I've been on Fox 29 ever since. Like, it literally led to a weekly segment on that show while she was there. And I still go down there, you know, regularly to do segments. So the idea that, you know, it's just a party, it's never just a party. You know what I mean? It's never just a party. There's always an opportunity when you come in contact with other people to potentially make some stuff happen. So, and you just been doing that for,
we can back it up. We can back it up even further, Steph. When you were an engineer and said, I want to get on, you know, start to look at, you know, getting into TV and broadcasting, and we benefited from meeting you at a party and say, hey, we would love to have you as the face of Urban Philly and do our interviews. And you were so when we had opportunities to interview like Bernard Hopkins and, you know, and Morris Chestnut and other folks based on our advertising and marketing around those events, that was a, you know, great opportunity for us, and I think you know, played a small part in your career as well.
It absolutely did. It was that foundation, those building blocks of getting comfortable in front of an audience and, you know, knowing how to hold the microphone properly when you're interviewing somebody. So I always treasure those moments, those educational moments, the connections. I appreciate you for that. You were like the first person to put me on. So, you know, give me a shot to get my reps in and really kind of figure out what I wanted to do in this business. So I'll always appreciate you for that. Let's talk about, though, how important is it to have a network? I mean, we say it all the time. Networking gets thrown out there, you know, randomly. We've just talked about a couple different examples of what a network can do. But what would you say to somebody if they said, why do I need to network? Yeah.
I mean, I think you said it earlier that your network is your net worth, your relationships, you know, relationship is currency. You know, that social currency, social capital is currency. For opportunities. You know, I've had to pivot a lot throughout my career. A lot of things have changed, but it was always just relationships. You know, to your point, you know, meeting you and have an opportunity to amplify our brand, meeting folks at the Delaware Valley First Fridays and them kind of taking me under their wing, and they were spending over $10,000 a month on just postcards, sending out to people's physical address. So I brought a skill set, you know, emails back then, and they asked me to manage their email list, and I saved them a few $1,000s a month just by emailing folks the events versus them having to send a postcard. But it was those kind of relationships that then even opened up many of the doors. You know, Hassan Charles, who came from Delaware Valley First Fridays, eventually became our director of marketing, and a lot of the relationships that he built through all the parties, you know, to athletes and entertainers. Those were kind of the doorways even for us. You know, some of those interviews that you were able to do were because of his relationships that opened up the door and get us into the VIP. So it's all about relationships. And, you know, I noticed you said it's not, you know, it's who you know. And I would just take it a step further, because it's not who you know, because a lot of people know people or they know who they are, but it's not who you know, is who knows you.
It's true.
And what they know about you matters. So your personal brand and how you show up and how you follow through and all those things, because people can know you for the wrong reasons and never want to do business with you based on what they know about you. So it's not who you know, it's who knows you and what they know about you as well. So it's always good to build a good reputation and treat people well and make deposits. I always say if you make enough deposits, you can always make withdrawals, from those relationships. But some people go around just always wanting withdrawals. They'll call you up and want to withdraw out of the bank account. They always want something.
Don't we know that person that you only hear from when they need something? Literally, you could go years before you hear from this person. And they go, well, hey, I'm having this event if you want to come through. Or, hey, do you know somebody that can help me out with Make deposits. What does that look like? Let's keep that thread going. What does making deposits look like? Or what can it look like? Because I'm sure it can be a lot of different things.
Yeah. Well, you make a deposit just from, I say God gives us 2 ears and 1 mouth. If you just listen, if you use them in that proportion and listen to people, hear what they want to do, what they want to accomplish, because people who are always withdrawing, many times they're just talking all the time, telling you about what they need and who they are and what they want. And they have no idea who you are, what you do. So, a deposit could be as simple as listening to people, understanding what they need, what they're looking to accomplish, and thinking about ways you can make deposits. Can you make an introduction? Can you, make a connection? Can you support them in some form or fashion? So, finding ways you can make deposits. We used to, in our networking events, we would actually have these kind of icebreakers, and it was titled Givers Gain. So it was really intentional about find 5 people and just make deposits. Like, how can you help this person? So if everyone's focused on making deposits, we can always, make withdrawals, from the pool of deposits being made together. So that, people who are good networkers, they know, that they don't keep score, but they try to make as many deposits as possible. And you help enough people get what you want.
I definitely find myself doing that more often because I like to fancy myself a servant. So anytime I meet somebody new or I'm talking to anybody, I'm always thinking about who I know, how I can connect them, strategies, content strategies. Like for me, because of what I do, it's more like content strategy type stuff. Somebody's always asking me about social media or something like that. I'm like, well, did you think about maybe you could start creating content around this and then, and pretty soon I done a whole consultation, but it just comes very naturally to me to try to look for ways to serve first. And then, like you said, not necessarily looking for anything in return. I may or may not even remember that person's name. Like it just comes very natural for me to always be looking to serve first. So it's good that you say that, even something just as simple as listening can be a deposit that you can make with somebody. And you never know. Somebody might be just having a bad day and you allowing them to vent is something, and they remember that. People remember that, that saying about they don't always remember what you say or whatever, but they remember how you make them feel. And I think listening is a very good way to make somebody feel seen, make somebody feel appreciated, and they remember you for that.
Yeah. John C. Maxwell, he said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
There you go.
Listening, helps people recognize that you care and that you're, it just, sends the right signals in that respect. And you talk about not taking score, and I believe that you reap what you sow, as a principle, but you don't always reap where you sow. So sometimes you sow seed at one place, but you reap other places. So that's just kind of how I operate as well.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black
own media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Where did your networking skill or your sense of, because I've known you for a long time. I don't know how I didn't know you as a child, obviously. But it seems like you've always had this very good sense of the importance of having a network. So it feels like you started fairly early in that process and, have been able to grow, a thousands person network over time. Where did that come from? What part of you sort of knew that was something that was going to be important?
Yeah. So actually, the industry that I was introduced to, I was 18 years old and introduced to network marketing. Mm-hmm. A lot of people run from, the cousin who's doing network marketing and the married
that would be me running the other direction.
I can't tell you how much in the first business I did, it was in college. And it was a network marketing business. It was a long distance telecommunication business. And I didn't make much money from it, but what I learned from mentors and understanding how to connect with people, how to network, it was huge. And I always say it wasn't what I earned from that. It was what I become in the process. And later I did a network marketing business in the coffee business, Organo Gold, and built a team of over 30,000 distributors all across the country, was speaking in, 40 different team in 40 states and 9 different countries, was one of the top leaders and, presenting in front of at the MGM with 15,000 plus people. So I learned how to build relationships, how to network, and how to build teams around just relationship marketing. So this is before the social media and things of that sort, and just kind of belly to belly relationship building. And you build that, through that. And some of your top marketers and folks, they learned their sales and networking skills through network marketing. You'd be surprised how many of your top influencers actually were in network marketing.
Right.
And you learn.
You don't know they was doing Amway back in the day.
Right. And the funny thing is, my trainees used to always be on, if people know you're selling, then you're a bad salesperson, and most people are just, they don't understand how to communicate the virtue of a good product or service and get people to say yes. And they get weird when they're trying to network. And so a lot of times the bad taste in your mouth wasn't really the business or the concept of network marketing, was who approached you and how they approached you about it and how they didn't leave you alone. They were, at the barbecue trying to show you brochures. And
I said I would take a look at it later on. Like, I'm trying to eat this rib right now. Calm down.
So I've managed to, in that industry, was able to train people on how not to damage good relationships, how to build, a team, and how to connect with people and not be weird, if you will. Because any business you're in, you have to sell. You got to communicate the virtue of good products and service.
True.
Get people to say yes. So learning those basic skills like sales skills, learning how to recruit people, learning how to retain people in a business like that. So I learned amazing skill sets, and network marketing is just like any business, it's different sectors and different types of business. So it's not one way or one product or service. So I always recommend people, I say, even if you don't make any money, just try it out and learn the skills, learn from some of the top networkers in the world on how to build a business through relationships. And that was kind of my secret sauce. I learned a lot through that and brought a lot of that to every business that I have in. And it's been a great asset for me, building those skills and those muscles over the years.
I'd say you've been pretty successful. So, knowing what you know about networking, and having observed other people do it well and not so well, what would you say people get wrong about networking?
Say, many times people feel like they need to be interesting. So they try to be interesting to people. But like we talked about earlier, you can network by just being interested versus interesting. Many times people are like, what do I say? What do I have to do? But just really connect with people, ask questions, listening, active listening, and following up. People like to talk about themselves a lot. So
a lot.
talk about themselves and be a good listener. You can network well. 2 is just many times understanding who you're talking to, understanding personalities. That was another thing that I had to learn through networking is understanding mirroring, matching different personalities. Some people speak fast, some people speak slow, and they like people who are like them. So I naturally learned to be a chameleon and speak people's language,
Right?
And speak that cultural agility and speaking different. We do it at work sometimes. We find ourselves code switching, right? But that's a skill that Black folks have had to learn by moving into many times spaces that didn't represent them, or people of color, or people with different dimensions of diversity. Have always had to learn that cultural agility, which is an asset as well, to be able to navigate different rooms and personalities is another way to be able to connect with people. Another great book by some really great books on this. One of the first books I read was How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
I have that. It's so funny. I probably have like 3 copies of that book because I always say I'm going to read it, and then I started, and then between that one and Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. They're back here somewhere. I've started them multiple times, but never finished them.
That book has 13 principles, and I read it when I was like early 20s, and again, that was one of the benefits of being in kind of network marketing. They ingrained in you personal development, and just read 10 pages of a good book a day. How do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? 10 pages over the course of a month, you get through a book. Imagine if you did just 12 books. Many times we get an analysis paralysis trying to do too much. So I learned just reading good books on just influence and communication, and that one book just talks about so many powerful things like listening, talks about smiling, how just, being, because you come from communities sometimes where there's negative sanctions for smiling.
It's so true. Like, what you smiling at? Why are you so happy? You know what I mean? Like, I'm just
looking at
right.
Eye contact, right? Firm handshake. So just basic things that you communicate with your body and how you communicate with people, and how people see you, and just understanding that charisma is not something that everyone is people just born with. Some people have maybe been around and been in environments that lean them towards more charisma, but you can learn these things too. You can just understanding how to connect with people. So those are things, the emotional intelligence, understanding, some people, you ever had that person that just keeps on talking, they can't take any signal and
you be waiting for that little break and just to jump in to say something, or especially when you're on the phone, you be trying to get off the phone and you be waiting for that little pause or the lull, and there's never a lull because they just keep talking to the point where you just finally have to be like, I gotta let you go. I gotta interrupt you. I'm sorry. I gotta like, people, if this is you know who you are. You really do. You know who you are. Like, emotional intelligence is so, so important. And I think just sorely lacking in our society these days. And it what you said just resonates so true, because, the idea that charisma can be learned and these things can be learned. So what would you tell an introvert about? Give an introvert like 2 good tips. If this is the person that's like, I really can't spend more than 15 minutes around a large group of people. But I know for my business, for this pivot I'm trying to make, for this transition that I have coming up in my life, it's going to require me to step out of that comfort zone and do something a little bit differently. If this thing that I'm pivoting to is going to succeed, I'm going to have, like, you can't do it. You can't do it alone. It says at the bottom of the screen, you can't do this by yourself. So what would you tell someone that just hate, because if you talk to people, they all say, I hate networking. Oh, it's a networking event. Oh, I don't want to go. I don't want to make small talk. I don't want to have to listen to somebody tell me about their kids or their dog or, whatever, and blah, blah, blah. Like, people loathe the idea of having to be in this room, doing this thing. So what would you tell those people?
Yeah, one, I would say, and people don't believe this, but I'm naturally an introvert. I like privacy.
I don't believe you. Totally don't believe you.
I learned how to be an extrovert, but I still like being in my brain, and I'm more of an introvert. Doesn't necessarily mean that you're shy.
Right.
It just means
right.
You like privacy, and that sometimes big crowds can exhaust you, and talking to a lot of people can wear you out. So I had to build that muscle, over time to be able to do that. But I still get fatigued, after my networking event. I'm like, I'm
shutting it down.
I don't want to talk
it all the way down.
Yeah, and just have my privacy. So, and also I would many times networking is not fun for people too, or they don't have a need to network because they're not in a space or a business, or they haven't stepped out of their comfort zone in a place where networking can be valuable to them. You may say, well, I'm a nurse, and network, I'll be a nurse for
forever.
Right, forever. And, who am I networking with and why am I networking with them? So you may never even just, have a mindset of maybe wanting to do other things, whether it's serving on boards, whether it's in giving back to meet that need of contribution. Maybe it's supporting, someone's business or starting your own business.
Is there still some value there, though, for that person that says, well, I don't need to network because of my industry, or I'm not looking to, raise money or whatever? People think about networking only for very specific reasons. And to your point about, deposits and withdrawals, they only think about network when it's time to make a withdrawal. What would you say to that person who thinks because they don't have an immediate need, they don't need to do it? Yeah.
I mean, it does come down to even human needs. Some people want a human need to contribute, so I would think about it more than just a need for financial gain or a need for your business. If you want to contribute better to society, knowing people, networking, and being able to make those deposits to organizations or to causes that you want to contribute to. Maybe it's a human need for growth. You want to continue to grow and learn. So meeting people and building your influence and relationships to be able to learn and grow from people that you naturally wouldn't be able to connect with, through people. So ultimately, obviously the career that you're in is going to index higher, for certain types of networking. Obviously, having a sense of security and knowing that if that job does lay you off, that you have a network to lean on, or even if there's personal goals. So I would really sit down and write down your reason why networking. Again, some people don't need a network, and they can probably go through life and live a happy life not networking, but there are obviously tremendous value depending on the human needs you have. And again, it's not just financial gain. It could be experiences, but, identifying ways that networking can help you to achieve some of your goals. Otherwise, there may not be any motive for you to step out of your comfort zone to get into different spaces unless you do have kind of some intention behind why you're doing it and on a macro level, not on a one-on-one level where you're talking to someone, but how can those relationships benefit you in some way down the line? And I would say 99% of people from networking, from making relationships, they can find a connection to why can make their life a little bit better, as a result of having a good network.
That's right. That's right.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
So now, we're building sort of this I'll say macro network. You know, you want to have a Rolodex, to use an antiquated term. You want to have this Rolodex of people that you could potentially call on if necessary, but you may not necessarily consider them your friends per se. They may be just close acquaintances or friendly acquaintances or whatever sort of label or box you want to put them in. But then you also do maybe have that circle of people that is your actual network. Like these are people you do business with on a regular basis and, you know, everything else. How do you control who becomes a part of your network or decide who becomes because, you know, also I'd have to think for you, especially, you got people coming at you left, right, and sideways, wanting to take advantage of the network you've already built, wanting to take advantage of the businesses that you run and be a part of it. And for good or bad, you know, it may be a good relationship, but you don't know yet. Yeah. How do you control that flow of people sort of in and out of your network?
Yeah, it is. As your network gets bigger and bigger, and obviously you do get to a point where it's not, you won't know everyone who knows you. And that's what I talk about. It's not who you know, it's who knows you and what they know about you. So I benefit sometimes from people, I benefit from people I've never met or connect with, or I'm in rooms that I've never been in, but I've been there before because someone else talked about me that I may not have known. And that goes, you know, and social media has allowed us to do that a little bit more, kind of scale our brand and our relationships. You know, it gets, especially someone like me who's not always, I don't have like a photographic memory on everyone I meet. So sometimes it makes people upset that, you know, they kind of know you and they know what you're about. But then you get down to, and they're like, you don't know me, you don't know
I don't know you, man.
Sorry, I just had to be honest. I'm sorry, I don't. But and then I'll kind of get down to it. And I may have met them in 2007, and
right.
One time, but sometimes there are folks that you'll see, but you have to some relationships you're going to go deep with, and people that are kind of that part. It's kind of, you think about some of those circles, if you will. You got this inner circle of people that you communicate with often, and you're building deep. You're going to have a lot more loose relationships, kind of acquaintances and associates, and folks that you can call on, and they know they can call on you when you may need some information or a connection. And then there's folks who, you know, again, through social media, we've kind of scaled the ability to build relationships and connect with people. Or through a podcast like this, you may have people who know of you and know your story and know your background and feel a level of connection with you. Right. And you can reach out to them and pick up, you know, on that right where where you start. So it for being a good networker, you do want to think about who's that inner circle 5 to 10, who's the kind of 30. That you may communicate with, you know, once a month or every few months or so, that you stay connected. And then there's gonna be a kind of a loose hand, you know, about 155 or so that you may talk to once a year or so. But the great thing is, again, with social media, people can stay up with your life and haven't talked to you for years. I'll connect with friends that I haven't seen in years, but they at least know what I've been up to. They feel connected to me. And that's the beauty of social media and some of the platforms you can create to kind of scale your influence and relationships. And folks can talk about what you're doing, and you can benefit from that when you walk in the room and people have been talking about the good things you're doing. So I love social entrepreneurship, one, because you know, I get value from impact. You know, I've just been wired to you know, put people over profit, you know, to put impact over profit. Absolutely. So I benefit from that spiritually and emotionally. And that kind of work also gives you a lot of goodwill, where people want to support you and see you successful, because it's not necessarily about you, it's about a bigger cause. And so a hack as well, when everything's not just about you and your own personal gain, but about a bigger cause and impacting people around you as well.
That's right. That's right. So what is the first thing someone should do after they meet somebody? What's the follow-up? What does that look like? What does that initial post networking interaction look like for somebody? You went to the event, you met somebody, you shook a bunch of hands, people ain't exchanging business cards anymore, but maybe you scan their QR code or whatever. So you do have some level of contact information for them. Yeah. What's the next thing a person should do?
I like to, I can give you the textbook. Obviously, the textbook answer is, you meet someone the next day, you drop a note. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Let's, I don't go to just, meet up if there's right. no purpose behind that, especially right. with busy people. Like, they just don't have time to just do general networking with a lot of folks, and I've got to the point where my calendar is super busy with networking intensely.
Which is why I appreciate you even more for taking the time out to do this.
Yeah, you're in my inner circle. You're my inner circle. But I make time for that. But just at least connecting with the person. Nice to meet you. Here's my information. Let's, stay connected. Mm-hmm. I like to connect on social media, especially if you're active on social media, things of that sort. You can kind of maintain if a person is connected with you and they can see what you're up to long term. It kind of keeps them connected to the things you're up to, the things you're doing. So when the opportunity does present itself, they may DM you and say, wow, right. I saw what you're up to and love to help. Or I think I have, based on what I do in my career, I think it'd be good to sit down and talk about this initiative, so staying connected with people. And again, I love social media in that way. I like LinkedIn, people up to date on different things. And so it keeps kind of warm leads, yep. at your fingertips based on all the things you're doing. If you're actively kind of updating folks on some of the activity you have in your career or business and things of that sort. So I like to, nowadays a lot of people don't have their business card. So I'll go right to LinkedIn and instead of just hitting connect, I go to their profile, I hit the button and it says personal invite.
Yeah.
And I will go ahead and do a note as well. Nice meeting you.
Always.
Let's stay connected, let's stay connected and do the invite. And now they'll connect. And I'll also mention sometimes where I met them. Nice
you have to.
You.
In context, yes. That is one of the primary tips I tell people in my workshop, Till Death You Tweet. Always send a personalized invite on LinkedIn. Do not just say, hey, I'd like to connect with you. Don't send that generic one. Because first of all, I'm not going to remember where we know each other from.
Right.
And if you're reaching out to me cold, I'm definitely not going to connect because I don't know you. So it's like always personalize that invite. Let people know, how they might be able to get some value or how you might be able to provide value to each other if you're trying to connect via social media. Now,
I'll add to what you said there because, what I do on LinkedIn, I do that because it lives there forever. So I've had scenarios where I've met someone, I've connected with them at a certain event. And then in the future, I see their profile like, wow, that'd be a great person to connect with based on something I'm doing. I'll go to my messages and see if they ever reached out to me, if I ever reached out to them. And I'll see, oh, wow, I met this person at XYZ. So then when you inbox, it picks right back up where you left off before. And it's more of a warm connection versus a cold connection.
Absolutely. Tips and tricks, y'all. Tips and tricks. So now how do you remove someone from your network if that ever becomes a necessity?
How do you remove?
Does that need to be a process? Like, especially if it was maybe not that inner circle, but maybe part of that 30 or so. And for whatever reason, you just don't feel like you can afford to be that closely connected with them anymore. Do you need to make it a process, or is it something you can just sort of let kind of just fade into the background?
Yeah, I kind of let it fade into the background. The hard conversation, sometimes some people can't take it and and then they just feel like, you don't like them or talking bad about them. So if I don't have to have a hard conversation with someone and instead I answer slower or don't answer at all
right.
in cases, And, they ultimately get the message that, I'm not as accessible to certain people. So that's, I don't know if there's the right way to handle that, but I think that it's a lot less confrontational and scenarios where, having to tell people, every time you call me, you want something from me. And, so I just stop, personally, I stop responding or I'll respond with the text, as, hey, what can I do for you? And keep it brief.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Final thoughts. I think we said it earlier, help enough people get what they want. You get all that you want, and again, not to say just that you're a people pleaser, you don't want to just be people pleasing and because you can make a lot of deposits and never turn, those contacts into relationships that can help you to build as well. So
it's true.
Don't be someone who just allows people to take and not reciprocate in some way if and when you do reach out to those people. Those are the folks that you might need to, again, have less access to you as well. Also, get out and move into networks that and get uncomfortable. Like you said, get uncomfortable. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Step outside of your comfort zone. If you do it long enough, it'll become part of your comfort zone.
Right.
With some of the introverts, again, I think, so what I said earlier, as far as you don't have to be interesting, you just be interested. Just asking good questions and actively listening and getting people to talk about themselves and finding ways to you say people's favorite radio station is What's In It For Me. WIIFM is it for me. So being able to, again, make deposits and what's really powerful about being a networker is your network is an asset in itself.
That's right.
Connect one person to another. So it's like the gift that keeps on giving for you, but also for others as well. When you build good relationships and can connect, you can meet some really influential people just by the people you can connect them with. So being a good connector is one way of adding value to people just by your own network and who you can connect them to based on your relationship. So that's a really strong deposit that helps you to build a great network, and it kind of feeds on that as well. Be very intentional about your brand. I'm pretty sure you talk about that as well.
Yes, indeed.
How you brand yourself. It goes beyond. There's a book by Harvey Coleman. He talks about the PI methodology, and where performance alone is a small piece of advancement, where your image and exposure. So your image and who you're exposed to with your image and your profile is going to determine kind of how you advance. At some point, just being good at what you do, having good skills, is not going to get you into leadership opportunities. It's not going to help you to build a big business if you don't have that image in the marketplace and exposure to the right people to really amplify what you're doing as well.
Right. Right. And one more question, because this just came, I just thought about this because this is the pivot, you know, people watching this are considering making some sort of major transition in their life. They're going to need other people to help them make that major transition in their life. So there may be an instance where you get that call and someone asks to pick your brain. What is a better thing for that person to do besides make that type of ask? Or is there a better thing? Knowing that this person actually does need help and does need to actually sit down in front of someone to get information that they need to make their pivot. But we all know that the pick your brain makes me cringe. What else might be a better thing for that person to do when they're reaching out to someone?
Yeah, absolutely. One is do your research on that person and know exactly what you want from that individual. Starting off with just with sharing with them what you admire about their background or something they've done, and be very specific about what you would like to connect with them about. Okay. So if I would say, hey, Stephanie, I really respect what you've done in pivoting your career. I've watched your TED Talk and I learned some really great tips. Would you mind, do you have 15 minutes for us to jump on the line? Just have a couple quick questions about some steps that some moves that I'm thinking about making in my career and would love your advice. Would you mind sparing 15 minutes to have a conversation? So sometimes the time,
that's the thing. I would give somebody 15 minutes. You know what I mean? Quick little Zoom, 15 minutes. I'm setting a timer, but and even if you don't, like once you get on the phone, maybe the conversation just goes naturally and organically to wherever it goes. But I think that's a key point of it is don't try to monopolize a full lunch or just say, let's get coffee. I'm like, that could be an hour or two, depending on
2 hours trying to get around the city.
Exactly. You got to drive, you got to do this, you got to do that. Like there's the basic version of Zoom that's free, y'all. And you get up to an hour per video conference. So ask someone for 15 minutes on a Zoom call so that they don't have to leave their home or don't have to leave their office or can do it from their phone, wherever they might be at the time. Make it as convenient as possible for that other person that you're asking for something from. And to your point, be prepared, have your questions ready, don't just be like, so how did you make your, like, don't be vague, you know what I mean? And don't expect me to relive and replay my entire life story for you there while you're trying to find whatever nuggets you need from that to do what you have to do. Be prepared with actual questions and just be very respectful of that other person's time.
Absolutely. And someone like yourself, you have a lot of public information, so consume that before you consume that person's time.
I was just saying, most of the stuff I know you can find on Google.
So consume that information and then ask the nuanced questions, on that call. And, a great thing to do is take the suggestions. One thing that successful people do like is they like to find people who are motivated. And if they give you suggestions on books or things of that sort, take those notes and just ask them, do you mind, if I follow up with you after I read those books or those, and just kind of give you an update on, whether it's email or just to update you on how things, are moving forward. And ultimately say, yeah, absolutely. Because they know most people won't follow up.
That's
they won't take these steps. But if you're someone who goes and comes back and says, hey, Stephanie, you recommended this great book. I read it. And here's a few things that I got out of it. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. That's a way that you start making, start building a relationship with that person. They follow back up. They may follow back up and say, yeah, please keep me updated. Let's grab coffee. Love to hear, your story and your new role. So that's a way to start building that relationship as well.
It's true. Got to do the work. But be respectful of other people's time. So thank you so much. Your people sent over this contact information for you. So I'm just going to pop it up there. I hope this is okay to give out your email address.
That's perfect. They can email me. LinkedIn is really good. Gives me a little more context about who the person is and and connect in there and see if I know you by face or what have you. Right. I'll get an email say, yeah, we met XYZ, but a little bit of more context can help out. So LinkedIn is also a great place to find me.
So send Sul a LinkedIn invite and be like, I watched your Pivot episode. You were amazing. You gave some great advice on networking, and I would love to try to connect and follow up on some of the points you made in that episode. But you got to watch the episode first. I'm just saying. And you have had to watch all the way to the end as well. So
one more nugget.
One more nugget.
Yeah.
We like nuggets.
When you do meet with someone, many times successful people will ask at the end, how can I help you? Mm-hmm. Be prepared to answer that question.
That is true.
It may be the last time you get it.
That is so true. Because I've done that where somebody, I just want to, and they're like, so what do you need me to do? And I'm like, let me think about that. That's a great question. And you hadn't thought, first of all, you hadn't thought that they would ask, but maybe you hadn't even thought through your whole thing, whatever that thing is. Maybe you hadn't thought that through enough to even know what you need to ask for. So that's a very, very good point, because people do want to help you. Ultimately, people do want to help you, but they want to see that you've done the work in advance and that you're as invested in the process as you expect them to be. So, if they ask,
the answer could be, you've already helped me with just what you just answered. Being able to follow up with you maybe in 6 months to tell you, my progress would be tremendous.
Boom. See, spoken like a true master networker. I'm gonna write that down for my own notes. How can I help? Just allowing us to continue this conversation and stay connected would be help enough.
There you go.
Boom. Thank you so much again, Sul. We really, really appreciate it. This was fantastic. Some awesome advice and insight into networking. Because again, this is not something any of us can do alone. And you're going to need someone else at some point, especially when we start talking about making major life transitions and pivots, if you will. So get that networking popping, be willing to get a little bit uncomfortable, and grow and build your network to something that supports you as much as you support it. I'm Stephanie Humphrey. I want to thank Sulaiman Rahman, and I want to thank you for watching The Pivot.